Back to Better is also the theme for NuPath for next year. We've had previous themes before, such as Power Up, We Got This, but going forward, it's going to be Back to Better, and I'll explain more about that. First, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow we have our second vaccination clinic at the Martin Center at West Cummins Park. It's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you are scheduled or registered to receive your second or first dose tomorrow at the Martin Center, rain or shine, we are on, and I hope to see you there. Drive safely there. If there's any changes, we will send out the alerts, so look out for your alerts. So with that said, let me get back to better. So Back to Better is talking about what is NuPath going to look like when we emerge from this pandemic. We've experienced significant events in this industry that has caused us to change the way we do things. The last major event was back with the closing of the workshops, sheltered workshops, with stopping the sub-minimum wage, and closing center-based programming. And that's all we knew at that time. We didn't know what the new program was going to look like, but what emerged out of that was CBDS programming and no walls. What emerged out of that was better. And we have to take this opportunity with the pandemic to do the same, to emerge out of this better. Yesterday was National Random Act of Kindness Day. And it reminded me of an experience that I had 3 weeks ago that I want to share with everybody. So 3 weeks ago, I was on my way to one of our residential homes to check in on the staff there. And I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts to buy them hot chocolate and donuts before I got there. I pulled up to the drive-thru, I made my order, and then I pulled up to the cashier. I handed the cashier my card, and the cashier said, "You're all set." And I'm just like, what? I said, "I didn't pay for it." The cashier said, "You're all set. The person in front of you paid for it." And I was just like, really? I looked ahead of me and I didn't see the person. They drove off. I didn't get a chance to say thank you. I was so touched by it. And I just, with everything going on over the past year, it just was so touching to have that experience. It was the best thing that happened to me in 2021 thus far. So I could have just driven off and just been happy, but I said, how do I do better? So I handed my card back to the cashier, and the cashier looked at me like I'm crazy. Like, excuse me, it's free. And I said, no, you don't understand. I said, I want to pay for the person behind me. I want to pass on the act of kindness. So I paid for the person behind me. The cashier's response was she was shocked and so, oh my God. And I just hope that this continued on, that the person behind me then paid for the person behind them as well. And I felt that, I emerged out of that better. And that's the same concept with getting back to better here at NuPath. So when the pandemic first hit us, it was like hitting the reset button. All the programming we had known was gone. We had to create new programming, virtual programming, triage and outreach calls, hybrid model. That's what emerged from this pandemic. So there are some positives that emerged from it. So going forward, how do we carry on the positives? How do we collaborate with the old way, the new way? And the best way for me to start thinking about this is to tap the minds of some of the most experienced people, some of my most experienced colleagues. So today's guest is going to be Elda Soares. He's the Director of Stabilization, and Doreen Mumper. The three of us have a combined 42 plus years experience of working at NuPath. And I would love for Elda and Doreen to be able to share their insight more specifically on three specific points. What has been lost over the past year from their perspectives, what has been gained over the past year from their perspectives, and finally, what do we need to move forward? What do we need to make it better? So with that said, Elda Soares, welcome.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for giving me your time. Um, well, I'll repeat the three questions. Actually, it's one question with three parts to it.
Yeah.
So over the past year, from your perspective, and you've been with NuPath for 11 plus years now, actually 10 plus years. You've experienced residential, day program, transportation. You've had your hand in every jar. So over the past year, can you kind of elaborate and kind of give us insight on, what has been lost to you, what has been gained, and looking forward, with the concept of back to better, what do you see as, do you envision as being back to better for NuPath?
Yeah, absolutely. First I want to start off by saying, the biggest thing we've lost during this pandemic is the lives of the people we support. We've lost a lot of people along the way, due to this horrible pandemic, which hits home.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, we've been here a long time. We've known a lot of these people for a good majority of their adult lives, and it's something that we will never forget. These people we've lost along the way that we support. You mentioned our program, our No Walls program, which we had 9 groups up and running. And due to the restrictions around transportation, that program has been put on suspension status. That is a program that's not currently running. It was really flourishing and taking off. So we're hoping, with the cases going down, hopefully some of the restrictions get loosened and we can get people back, into that program. When you look at our pre-employment supports, our micro businesses, our landscaping crew, our painting crew, house cleaning, those were really transitional programs, transitional employment that really got our people prepared for competitive employment. That stuff's been put on hold, which is just, a horrible thing to see that's caused by the pandemic. And then the biggest thing for us to run these excellent programs that we run, the loss of revenue. We need to get people back. We need to get people back in our program so that revenue can come back and we can continue to provide, excellent supports that we've done for years at NuPath. As for things that I've seen that we've definitely lost during this last year.
Right. Well, thank you, Elder. So in terms of things gained, I mentioned a few things. I mentioned that, we had to build a ship on water. Ideas and concepts that was in this industry years and years ago that would have typically taken a decade to develop happened overnight. The virtual program and triage calls, the hybrid model. So, with that insight, what do you think about what did we gain?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned things, in this field. It seems like that is the truth. It takes things a long, long time to develop and to really move forward. So I feel like this pandemic, in a way, has kind of helped that kind of kick it a little bit into high gear. Just for me, overseeing the employment department, we had talked for a long, long time about getting the technology in the hands of the people we support. This pandemic has really put that on the fast track. We have our job coaches out in the, you don't have to go directly to a site immediately for any type of crisis that may occur or any issues at the job site. We have tablets in the hands of the people, phones, they're Skyping, they're FaceTiming. So they're getting that live on demand service from the job coach right away, which has been something in this field that would take years to get it going. But it was nice to see with the pandemic, it really, put a push on it. So the people are just getting that quick support that they need before things really spiral in a direction that we don't want to when it comes to employment. You had mentioned the triage calls. We've always had strong relationships with the families. Now the calls that are being made, you've just learned so much more about the families. These weekly, 2-3 times a week, you're talking to the families now and really getting a sense of what they, just a little bit more background in what they need and things that can be improved and things that, that they need to be supported at, when they have their son or daughter at home. So just that extra tight bond with the families has been great to see. And also, when you look back, another thing I feel like has been gained is the virtual programming aspect of it. We would have people that, they would be on a shortened schedule. Maybe they would come 2-3 days a week for in-house programming. Now they have another avenue to do things at home. If they go to a doctor, in the past, if someone went to a doctor's appointment, say they had an appointment in the morning, they go to their appointment, they wouldn't come home, they wouldn't come into the day program. Now, if they don't come in, they have that outlet at home still that they can log on to our virtual programming.
Well, thank you, Elda. It's amazing that this pandemic took away our community. Pretty much, we don't have the community anymore. It took away our physical space, our programming. But throughout the pandemic, the NuPath family was still able to stay connected, which, you know, our Navigating Life was a huge tool that helped us. I think we were ahead of time with that. And given the pandemic, it ended up being a very useful tool. So moving forward, we talked about what we've gained. Do you see any of these gains that as more of a permanent being incorporated into a future programming? What's your insight into how can we emerge out of this better?
Well, I mean, kind of like the sheltered workshop, you know, that was a huge transition into community-based day services. We're going to have to keep an open mind. We're going to have in-home services. We're going to have, you know, people coming to the facility base, people not attending, you know, the facility base. So it's definitely going to have to be keep an open mind to see what model best fits our program participants going forward, and making sure that we're giving our staff the proper tools that that they're going to need with these new models, because it's kind of like the transition from sheltered workshop to community-based. There's a lot more that comes to it than just, hey, we're shifting to a new model. So just giving the staff the proper tools that they need to be able to support our people while they're out in the community. And another thing is, you know, I just actually talked to a family last week. This mother hadn't been able to attend ISP meetings because she lived out of state. So having the virtual program, having the virtual outlet for having people to attend ISP meetings has been excellent too. This was a mother that hadn't attended an ISP live in years, and now with the Zoom platform, she was able to join. We have individuals who have a very difficult time attending their own ISP meetings in person, but now that they have the virtual platform, they're able to sit in on their own ISP meetings, which has been, you know, terrific, because, you know, that's what it's all about. We need to make sure our individuals have as much input as possible into their plans and with their visions for their own futures. And then last for me is just, you know, the focus on vaccines. You know, we want to continue to educate people on vaccines. This vaccine is a path out. It's a light at the end of the tunnel to get back to our community, getting our people volunteering, getting our people working. And to me, that's the path back to better.
Thank you, Elda. I really appreciate your insight. It was very valuable. And I agree with all your insight. I want to touch a little bit on the virtual programming, because you made me realize that, you know, I used to, well, not used to, I still occasionally will fill in and we'll host the fitness. We do Power Up Fitness, and we do this every single day. There's a team of us, Erica, Amy, myself, and one of the things that I see that's improvement is that we reach one person, like myself. When I host fitness, there is 30 to 40 people from different sites that we have all together following me, and I can single out one person and give them extra attention, and they're in their own environment, they're in their own comfort zone. So there's less environmental distractions. And I never realized how much skill and potential that our individuals had, even with fitness, that they follow it, that they've improved. You see the gradual improvement every week, that they can follow instructions. And, you know, there's research to be done on, you know, the relationship with behaviors, the decrease of behaviors with the introduction of virtual programming. There's so many things to look at. But again, we don't have all the answers right now. It's really just thinking about what can we move forward. So Elda, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome, James. Thank you for having me.
No problem, my friend. Thank you, Elda. So next up is Doreen Mumper. She is the residential director. She has been with NuPath for 11 plus years. Doreen is one of my colleagues, and you know, same as with Elda. Doreen, hello.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good.
So same as I was saying, same as Elda, I would like to pose the same questions to you. I would like to pick your mind. You have a wealth of experience and knowledge, but from a residential perspective, Elda was bringing his knowledge and insight from the perspective of day program and employment. But you will make it whole when we add the residential piece. So the three questions I posed to Elda is one, over the past year, what has been lost, facing the pandemic? Two, over the past year, what has been gained? And then finally, what do we need to move forward? So the theme is back to better. What do we need to get back to better? We have the opportunity now with the pandemic. We hit the reset button. We develop things in a snap of a finger that would have typically taken a decade to develop. So now that we have this opportunity to move forward and do something better, I'd like to hear your insight on and your ideas. So first of all, over the past year, what do you feel we've lost?
Well, by the way, Elda's going to be a tough act to follow. Similar, we've lost people in our residential network. We had our first 2 people pass away recently, and that was very difficult for the teams that support the individuals at these houses because, they're part of that family, they're part of that group. So obviously the loss of people is the first thing. We've lost a sense of community and unity, which I know sounds silly, but we were so community-based and we were so unity-based as far as we would have, holiday parties and we would have cookouts and we would do all these wonderful things, each individual house, as well as we would do stuff as a whole division. We might have 2 houses join up for an activity. And so that has been lost. So that's been something that's been hard for the people that we support. One thing that we've lost is in-person meetings, and we'll talk about that as a gain later, but sometimes just the in-person meeting of, seeing a parent, sitting across the room from them, parents having the accessibility and guardians to go into our residential homes and to just show up and have a cup of coffee or have lunch with someone. It has to be more scheduled now because we have to make sure that we're able to, get that person out. And, they are still able to go home with their loved ones, but it's just in a different format. So that's something that's been lost.
Well, let me interrupt you, Doreen, for a moment.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, have you noticed anything lost with any of the individuals living in the homes, like socialization skills? Now that there's no community, the places they used to go, do you notice any change in that?
Well, I would say when we were in the beginning, like we'll say, 8 months ago, when we first were in total lockdown, yes, I would say that was definitely something that was lost. But moving forward, we've been able to take, just one person out. It's less group activities in the community. It's more like a one person, like even going to something as simple as going to the barber. Like, that was lost for a while because we had our people so sheltered in the homes. And that was to protect the people that we supported. Right. It was nothing against everything. The whole world was in lockdown. It wasn't just us. So that is something that was definitely lost, was a sense of, being in part of their community, which is something that NuPath had worked so hard for so long, was to have people not just in the community, but be part of their community. We wanted people to know that, when they went to the local market basket or we're at Hannaford or wherever they go, that, our guys are known by name because they go there all the time. It's just like a familiar face to them. They know the local barber. They know the guy at the gas station. It's just part of our normal world. And that was one thing that was definitely lost, was that in-person community. And also having parents at our house. Like, we have great holiday parties. We have, great, like cookouts in the backyard, and all that was lost as well. But that wasn't just lost for the people that we support. It was lost for all of us, as a whole nation.
Okay.
So that was definitely something. And trainings became more difficult. So getting our team trained in-person trainings, which is something that is also something that I'll talk about as something that we gained. And the interpersonal networking, we used to have a monthly managers meeting, and then we would have, cluster meetings where that interpersonal, I feel bad for any new person that started because they don't know, the great networking that we used to have. And it was just building collaboration. So that was something that was lost.
Wow. Well, you pretty much know where I'm heading at. You started getting into the gain.
What's the gain? So believe it or not, less behaviors. I think there's less demands on the people that we support, and there's less behaviors, and it's a calmer atmosphere for them. There's less external stimulation. So we've actually had less behaviors. We've had a lot of virtual collaboration. I know Elda spoke of this, but we had a area director make a comment about how wonderful it is to have people that normally wouldn't be able to attend their ISPs at their ISPs. It was a calmer setting for them. They weren't having to, leave the house or go into a big, conference room. It just was a calmer situation for them. So that is something that a couple of different area offices have actually commented on, about how many more people are attending their ISPs. Navigating Life was something that we had started as an agency, which was wonderful. But we are now so proficient in navigating life and getting those pitches on, and parents talking back and forth through the Navigating Life. We're also getting really good on innovation. Elder talked about getting, tablets and getting innovation in the hands of the people that we support. Almost all of our homes have new smart televisions, and different things can be downloaded on them. And it's amazing how much innovation we've been able to put into the hands of the people that we support so quickly. Compared to, I remember Ted a couple of meetings ago wanting, this innovation rollout, and we're all like trying to figure out who was the best person and what should we do. And COVID happened, and we went full force. And the unity, I know we lost unity because of, not having the in-person meetings, but we've come together so tightly as a team, and we've had to overcome so much. And, day support has been so involved in supporting the residential network, especially with all the day programs closed, and just having a tighter unity of leadership. I feel as though that's something that has been gained.
All right, that was a mouthful, Doreen. Yes, so there's a lot of positives and negatives that came out of this pandemic.
And I hate to say a lot of the negatives actually give you a positive after. So
now we got to shuffle through everything and figure out how can we incorporate the positives, and what is this going to look like? What is it that our clientele need with this new norm that we don't know what it's going to look like yet? So thank you very much, Doreen. The last piece to this is, what do you need? What do you think you need to move forward to as I say, back to better? What is it going to take?
Yeah, I think we need to come up with a new way of safely feeling that we can be together with people again. And we need to find a way to collaborate what we had with what we've learned. So there may be a situation where virtual ISP is better than an in-person ISP, but we need to come up with a way to collaborate what we had with what we have now. And I think even a lot of our trainings going forward, we can do a lot of them virtually, but there are some that still need to be in person. And just trying to find out the best blend of both situations to support the people of NuPath, because obviously we're all here because we want the best for them.
Yeah. So Doreen, going forward, one of the things I've noticed from a residential and day program perspective is that there's been less separation of the two. And that might be something to look at for, how can we get back to better? Will there be a true separation of day program and residential? Will there be some type of merger where we've seen benefits out of that, where residential staff was available to assist with day program hours and vice versa? And so we've seen, and this all just added up to better support for the individuals who live at the homes. So that's something to look at how do we make things better? Is that something that's going to benefit? And that's a model that hasn't existed yet, where it's one.
We have a lot of day staff that are still picking up residential hours because they're not fully, you don't need all the staff that you had at day program because of lower attendance. So we still have a lot of the day team members that have been supporting the residential network for almost a year now. So that just goes to show what the collaboration, and it just goes back to our core values, just collaboration, innovation, just how can we support the people of NuPath best. It doesn't matter which division you work in. It's all about the people of NuPath.
Okay. And the last question I have for you, Doreen, is moving forward, back to better, is we have a lot of protocols in place for COVID-19, safety protocols, health screening, hand washing, PPEs. There's a lot of things that we've consistently put in place, and I believe we do very good with it. Do you foresee these protocols, procedures carrying over to the next new norm?
I think it'll be a long time before we stop taking temperatures when people arrive into our any of our properties. Doesn't matter whether it's a day program or a residential program. I think that screening at the door is very necessary until, I don't want to say herd immunity, but until, people are feeling more comfortable and more confident that, we're back to better. And I think that obviously increased cleaning in any home is definitely something, any property is definitely something that we should, continue with, because I think that we've been very fortunate where we've had very few people get sick, or if they did get COVID, their effects were not that bad. So we've had a few, like I said, that have definitely, unfortunately passed away. But I think as an agency, our cleanliness and our cleanliness standards and all of our protocols have been very proficient. And I think that the team of nurses and everyone that put everything into place has just been wonderful.
Yes, they have been. They work very hard. A lot of things going on, and
it just goes to show with the whole collaboration. Nursing, clinical, residential, day. It didn't matter what division you were. If there was something that needed to be done, we did it, and it just goes to show about collaboration within NuPath.
Oh, thank you, Doreen. Thank you very much. All right, so we heard it from Elda and Doreen, and had my 2 cents thrown in there as well. So to wrap this up, I want to remind everybody again, the Martin Center, we're having the vaccination clinic tomorrow. Rain or shine, it's still on. So if you are scheduled, registered, drive safely. I'll see you there. Also, I want to remind everybody, as we all become vaccinated, hopefully everybody, that still have to maintain safety, that don't get a false sense of security. I had my vaccination. I got my second shot last week. Thank goodness, no ill effects. But I still wear my mask all the time. Things are looking brighter. Things are looking better. I know that the positivity rate in Massachusetts, it's about 2% right now, and it's been trending downward for 10 consecutive weeks. We've had less and less cases, active cases. Currently, we have 40,000 active cases in Massachusetts. 3 weeks ago, we had 80,000. So continue practice social distancing, wear your mask, get vaccinated if you haven't. I recommend it. And everybody stay safe. Thank you for joining NuPath Live. Don't forget to tune in next Thursday. Dan Harrison will be back. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.